Well, Steam Nextfest has come and gone, but my footage of its many demos remain. I played a whole bunch of them this year, and 6 managed to steal my heart. Let's talk about them.
3, 2, 1, go!
So, I've never played F-Zero, the game that Aero GPX is spiritually succeeding, but I have played Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, and Aero GPX reminds me a lot of that, in the best ways. Especially the bit with the racetrack and the clouds. I didn't give myself much time with the demo, so I only tried 2 of the pilots and ran the races twice in total, but I really liked what I did play. As you can tell from the footage, the game is about going fast, and then going even faster than that. You'll notice over the course of the race, you'll see a number of the pilots drop by anything between about 3 to 10 as they either get wiped out or annihilated. They either crash or are smashed apart by other pilots. You can just run into them, but there's also a spin attack, which I think prevents you from taking damage. As you can see, the beginning of a race is more like a high-speed brawl than anything else, since you always start in the back. How you evade the mosh pit is a key opening decision. Do you hang back and let it thin out? Do you just go around it? Or do you try your luck and join in, jockey for position, and then maybe take out another pilot in the process? There's a couple things I'm a little sad about. 2 of the races felt a lot harder than the other 3 in the tournament, but I've seen other people struggle with those as well, so I don't feel too bad about that. What slightly annoys me though is how the boost works, and maybe this is where my pod racing experience comes back to bite me, because in Episode 1 Racer, your boost can be charged by going at full speed and using it overheats your engines. If your engines get too hot, they catch on fire and explode, making it a balancing act. Whereas in Aero GPX, boost is a resource that you start with and don't get any more unless you collect it by running over these coloured sections of track. I recolored mine from default so it's purple here. It's not a big issue, it just took us some time to learn. Overall though, I'm very excited to get my hands on the full release, and it just hit early access on Steam. Go check it out. What really immediately struck me about Airborne Empire is how beautiful it is. Look at these vistas. It's a gorgeous game. My first thought when I started playing Airborne Empire is that it's kind of like a more relaxed Frostpunk in the sky, with birds. The big thing that got me was the balance mechanic. Because it's a city builder, you have a lot of different buildings you need to construct, and because you're in the sky, figuring out where to put them is pretty important. If you put too many buildings on one side, the entire city tilts, greatly upsetting the residents living along the unbalanced axis. Also, because it's a city in the sky, you need to keep it up there. If the city gets too heavy, it starts falling. And that's a pretty stressful situation to be in if you don't have the resources to build a turbine or the people to man it, like I ended up in a few times. Combined with the resource management and making sure you have enough people, it's a very literal balancing act that makes building a city so much more engaging than others in the genre. It's also an open-world RPG. As you travel, you come across cities on the ground that give you quests, sometimes to gather and return with resources to rebuild things, sometimes to kill pirates. These quests usually net us valuable blueprints to unlock new buildings, and I think that's such a cool way to do it. It feels better than just unlocking stuff through passively researching it, which is in this game, but it's more improving what you've already got, which I think makes a lot of sense. Sidebar, I wrote this script before I played Airborne Kingdom, and it's funny revisiting this after the fact, because it kind of takes some of the shine of Airborne Empire's uniqueness. I mean, it doesn't really. From what I played of Airborne Empire, it feels better to control than Airborne Kingdom, so they've definitely improved a bunch of things and added quality of life stuff, but, you know, I just wanted to mention that because this probably sounds very strange to people familiar with Airborne Kingdom, so I just wanted that on the record. Okay. The demo terminates at the border between these grassy islands and sandy islands, but there's hours of content here, and it's honestly impressive how much it shows off. And knowing there's so much more in the base game makes me very excited to see the rest of it. The Steam store page reckons it'll be out in Q3 this year, so hopefully we'll see it soon. My first words when I started Goblin Cleanup was, if this is fantasy Viscera cleanup detail, I'm going to be very happy. I was very happy. Viscera cleanup detail is fun isn't really the right word, it's more satisfying. You put a lot of effort into cleaning a place up, incinerating body parts and garbage, mopping up blood and closing up bullet holes, and your reward is admiring how different the place looks from when you started. I think it's a good time, especially if I just want to sit and chill out listening to a podcast for a few hours. But it's also demanding in a way. There's a lot of different things to worry about, and it's very easy to miss minor details. That one smudge of soot or bullet hole you didn't notice because it blended in with the wall texture and the bad lighting. The piece of garbage that just seems to vanish on you, making a hallway spotless and... oh, where did I put that? Oh, fuck! Goblin Cleanup seems to avoid a lot of these issues. For one, instead of a more realistic art style, it's gone for a cartoony vibe. That actually makes what you need to clean up a lot easier to spot. It also gives you a way to magically track blood, making missing spots quite hard. There's also no buckets, just slimes that you grab with your little stick poker tool, which can be used to pick up meat as well, to turn it into a mop. The biggest innovation though is the mimic. It's your furnace, but get this, you can take it with you. When I learned I could pick it up, it felt like a game changer. That's why there's no buckets or disposal bins. You don't need them, because you don't have to trek across the level to dispose of things if you don't want to. And you can use the mimic to pick up things like meat and use slimes directly off the floor, which gives you a new way to approach cleaning. Goblin Cleanup isn't content to just be a fantasy copy of Viscera Cleanup Detail. The developers actually thought about what kinds of things they could do with the cartoon fantasy aesthetic, and what they came up with was not only something that fit thematically, but was also a quality of life change. There's only one problem. There's no way to save your progress in a level. You can leave whenever you want, but we both know that's not the same thing. Hopefully it's something they'll add for the release version, which at this time of recording doesn't have an ETA. This is kind of like if Suzerain was set in 1920s Hollywood. You played Suzerain? You should, it's good. So is this. This was one of the demos I didn't bother checking before downloading it. Steam just recommended it to me. It was one of the few demos I knew absolutely nothing about before starting, and it turned into one of my absolute favourites by the time I was finished with it. The game tasks you with taking stewardship of a forlorn movie studio. This is the point when I realized that's why it's called Hollywood Animal, by the way, and challenging you to raise it up into one of the greats. Which is harder than it looks. My first playthrough ended in bankruptcy. Nobody was ready for my genre-blending, woman-led sword and sorcery epic. The world wasn't ready. Like most of the demos on this list actually, there's a lot of the game on display. You start with the film already in production, which acts as a tutorial to get it over the finish line and into cinemas. We also see some of the narrative elements slip in. The star actor of the film you just inherited, he passed away before it entered post-production. There's this actress that keeps asking for more time off to improve herself, and another actress you have right now who absolutely hates her for it. It's up to you to figure out what to do with this wildcard that at least one of your crew despises. Your lawyer calls and says the family of the deceased star actor was promised royalties as per his contract, but nobody seems to remember this clause exists. Do you pay, or burn the contract and hope nobody finds out? The mayor shoulder taps you and asks for his daughter to be put in one of your films. His political influence could be very useful, but is his daughter really any good of an actress? And if you put her in a film, you encounter a problem just before wrapping production. One of the stuntmen is going to be a problem on set for her, and you have to decide whether you can afford delays to ensure she stays comfortable. Maybe it's like this just because it's the demo, but I hope this is how the whole game plays out, being constantly pressured to pick between bad options while trying to stay solvent. Like Papers, Please, but far greater in scope. Or indeed, like Suzerain, just smaller. And all of this is not even mentioning all the mechanical things you do, like get your writers to ideate scripts, choose cast and crew to complement the movie you're trying to make, even deploy your own bully boys for nefarious purposes. Not that I got much of a chance to do that with my time in the game, but the option's there. It'll be in the full version. The release date for Hollywood Animal is given as 2024, and I'll be keeping a very close eye on that, because I cannot wait to see where this game goes from here. I love Gunpoint. It's the first game from Tom Francis and the first in the Defenestration trilogy. It's a platformer, yes, but more of a puzzle game about rewiring electronics to solve problems. and sometimes you have to smash through windows. The actual interaction is simple and fairly intuitive. The complexity arises from just how much you can do with the tools you're given and the level's expectations of your ability. The writing and comedic timing is excellent, and executing a complicated play to solve a puzzle feels great, especially when you're pretty sure that's not necessarily how you're supposed to solve it. Tactical Breach Wizards feels like Gunpoint's spiritual successor. It's also a puzzle game in the veil of another genre, this time an XCOM-style tactical turn-based game. The writing is absolutely stellar, it's just as funny, and it's really satisfying to play. You control, in the demo at least, up to 2 Special Forces operatives. Zan is a seer, and he has the power to see the immediate future, 1 turn in the future in game terms. This makes problem solving interesting, because you know what's about to happen. You can test plans before enacting them to get through the level with the best allocation of resources and without taking damage, although I found the demo quite insistent that I do things a certain way with this ability. I assume that's because it's a demo and it didn't want to fail state the player before they got to see more of the game. Hopefully the occasional railroading won't be too prominent in the release version. There's usually at least 1 window in a room, and you're expected to use them to the best of your ability. It's the best way to eliminate most threats. Early missions set up defenestrations for you, later missions you're expected to try to set them up yourself. I don't think I was particularly good at this, especially during the mission where Zan and Jen are split up between the 2 parallel corridors, but I think that was the only point in which I really struggled with the demo. Often, before breaching into a given room, your operatives chat about the mission and get to know each other. The writing shines through brilliantly here. I can't show it all off in this video, but trust me when I say it's consistently really good and really funny. Like in Gunpoint, you can choose between a few different responses, some of which seem like they offer up new bits of information about the characters and possibly even change the nature of the conversation or end it prematurely. But I don't know that for sure, I've only played through the demo once. Tactical Breach Wizards is set to come out in like a day. I have to get faster at making these things. The last demo on my list this year is Vampire Therapist. It was the last demo I played as well. I played everything I talked about here and a lot more over the course of about 12 hours. You play Sam, a Wild West outlaw who used his vampiring for evil till he reached an epiphany and realized there was more to life. He spent a couple hundred years trying to teach his fellow vampires the same lessons. Now, with the help of an ancient vampire, Andromahos, he's fine-tuning his instincts to better help his fellow vampires. As you can see, it's a visual novel. It's pretty well written, I don't have much to say about it, until we get to the therapy. This is where the game distinguishes itself. Sam has clients who find themselves facing difficulties in life. It's his job to listen and hear to what they have to say, and then challenge them to reveal how what they think doesn't match their own reality. There are 5 kinds of cognitive distortion a client can present, and it's up to Sam to figure out which ones are being spoken, and thus how to respond. It's not that difficult, especially with Andromahos here to help, but it can sometimes be a bit tricky to figure out the right thing to say, which is good. I don't feel like it's the sort of thing you should always be able to just brute force, although I would welcome that as an accessibility option. And a game making its players get some book learning in them is something I always like to see. It felt good when I looked at what was being said and had to think about it and sometimes refer back to the manual before coming back with the correct answer. Vampire Therapist's slated release date is July 19th. That's almost 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. 7. Well, shit. Go get it. It's good. There were many more demos I played that I didn't want to spend too long highlighting. In a couple cases, it's because I didn't have much to say about them. I Am Your Beast is fun. It's kind of like if John Wick and Jason Bourne were super hot. It's fun. I had fun. That's all I really have to say. And Rekka is really interesting and definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on, but my footage looks like absolute garbage because my computer could only handle it at a stable frame rate on the lowest settings, and I didn't want to showcase it looking its worst. But mostly, some of the demos I played were just bad. And I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to be negative. I don't want to single things out or anything. This video is a celebration of what I enjoyed from Nextfest, and I really hope I did right by the games I talked about. Thank you for watching. So, when I was putting my video together, I discovered that something had gone terribly wrong in OBS, and all of my game footage was recorded with both the game audio and the mic on the same audio track. There was a second audio track present, but it was just empty, so I couldn't strip me talking out of the footage, which meant almost half of everything I captured was unusable. So I have a much better appreciation for why videos can take so long to come out now,